Hadirin yang kami hormati, demi menjaga kelancaran kegiatan kita hari ini dalam jaringan, perkenankan saya kembali mengingatkan housekeeping rules untuk kegiatan hari ini. Acara ini disiarkan langsung dalam jaringan melalui aplikasi Zoom dan kanal YouTube ISR Indonesia. Seluruh rangkaian kegiatan akan dilaksanakan dalam bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris. Bagi Anda yang bergabung bersama kami melalui aplikasi Zoom, kami menyediakan fitur terjemahan yang dapat Anda akses dengan mengubah saluran audio Anda dengan menekan tombol berlogo global yang terletak di bagian bawah dari layar Anda. Dan bagi Anda yang bergabung bersama kami di venue, kami menyediakan perangkat receiver yang dapat Anda gunakan. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum will be conducted in Indonesian and English. If you are joining us via Zoom application, we provide translation services from Indonesia to English and vice versa. You can enable these features and change your default audio by clicking the globe button that is available on the bottom right of your screen. And for those of you join us here, we provide a set of receiver that you can use. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Selamat datang pada acara Financing Indonesia Coal Phase Out, Adjust and Accelerate Retirement Pathway to Net Zero. Senang sekali saya Uliasi Simanjuntak dapat memandu rangkaian acara hari ini, Rabu 3 Agustus 2022, hingga siang hari nanti. Semoga Anda dalam keadaan sehat dimanapun Anda berada. Institute for Essential Services Reform berkolaborasi dengan Center for Global Sustainability University of Maryland dan didukung oleh Bloomberg Philanthropies telah melakukan kajian terhadap PLTU yang beroperasi dan yang masih dalam perencanaan. Untuk menentukan prioritas pensiun dini PLTU menggunakan multi kriteria berdasarkan kerangka acuan emisi di bawah 1,5 derajat Celcius. Selain itu, analisis telah dilakukan untuk menentukan biaya dan manfaat dari skenario pensiun dini PLTU dari aspek ekonomi, sosial, dan lingkungan untuk pemangku kepentingan yang lebih luas. Acara peluncuran laporan studi dan diskusi ini bertujuan untuk memaparkan temuan dan rekomendasi utama laporan tersebut kepada pemangku kepentingan di Indonesia. Now we will listen to keynote speech and opening remarks. It is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Ellen Young, Head of International Program Climate and Environment, Bloomberg Philanthropies, to deliver keynote speech. Mrs. Ellen Young, the platform is yours.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Ailuan and I work for Bloomberg Philanthropies. It is our great honor to be part of this initiative. Bloomberg Philanthropies work on global energy transition in a number of countries. And I would say the work in Indonesia is always my favorite, especially given the very vibrant economy, but also such colorful culture. It is our great honor to have two wonderful partners in this research. One of them is IESR, and we have been working with IESR very much on developing solar power in Indonesia, but equally important this time that we are looking at the topic of coal. The other partner in this research is the University of Maryland. We have been working with that team on our global coal initiative and recently work on how to look at how China can achieve its coal phase out. And I think that it's very important research they are releasing today because this research try to outline a framework about how countries should look at coal phase out. Coal phase out is not an easy task for any country. For us to have a unified and a consistent framework, help us look at how countries can learn from each other. How can we achieve this goal in the most cost-effective way and in the most just way to make sure that we minimize the impact on the communities. So without further ado, I would hand this over back to IESR and the research team to introduce the research. And let me say it again, it's really our great honor to be part of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Alun Yang. Selanjutnya merupakan opening remarks yang akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Fabi Tumiwa, Executive Director of ISR. Yang terhormat Bapak Fabi Tumiwa, kami persilahkan.
Good morning and good evening to my colleagues from at the US. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this event. Today marks the official release of our paper, Financing Indonesia Coal Phase Out, a Just and Accelerated Retirement Pathway to Net Zero, which ISR and Center for Global Sustainability, University of Maryland, have been working on for the past 5 months. This is the first investigation of Indonesia plan-by-plan retirement pathways. Early coal retirement has emerged as one of the most important topics in Indonesia as it discusses just energy transitions. Unlike the conventional wisdom or the conventional view, the retirement of coal presents Indonesia with a lot of advantage and benefit. First, diminishing coal plants' capacity make it possible for a greater proportion of renewable energy to be integrated into the power system and laying groundwork for an accelerated deployment of renewable energy after 2025. Without a reduction in coal capacity, it will be challenging for the country to reach the aim of a 23% renewable energy mix by 2025, as stipulated in our national energy policies, yet net zero emission compatible with Paris Agreement goal by 2050. Second, a phasing out of coal, we can assess the environment and the economy. Reduction of the emission that help the world battle global warming and thwart climate change. Additionally, hastening the phase-out coal-fired power plants actually result in less coal being burned and therefore benefit the economically from the elimination of billions of dollars in coal subsidy for government. Therefore, the government money can be used elsewhere to assist efforts to reduce poverty, combat inequality, and address the effects, the impact of the energy transition on the area that produce coal and the workers at the coal-fired power plants. Third, it means less pollution, therefore improve air quality and lower health costs. And all of this has a positive impact on the population health and better spending. Accelerating phase down the coal plants will eventually provide PLN with the opportunity to rapidly transform its brown asset into clean and renewable energy ones, increasing productivity and lowering the risk of stranded asset. How is this possible? The cost of generating energy for PLN would undoubtedly increase as a coal assets are kept in operation longer. Last year, ISR and Bloomberg New Energy Finance produced a report that showed that by 2027, solar PV plus 25% of battery storage capacity will generate cheaper electricity costs than a new coal plants. By 2032, the generation cost of coal plants could be surpassed by a solar PV combined with 100% battery storage. The government and PLN should be prompted by these economic facts alone to quicken the phase out of coal in order to maintain the affordability and reliability of the power generation in the future. And lastly, I believe that this study could assist the government of Indonesia and PLN to prepare an energy transition program, most notably the establishment of Just Energy Transition Partnership, or JETP. In closing, I would like to express ISR gratitude to Bloomberg Philanthropy for its generous support for ISR and the University of Maryland Center for Global Sustainability to work and produce this study. I'll also thanks Raina and Alicia of the Center Global Sustainability and Prof. Nate Hulman for their collaboration with ISR to make this study possible. And not least, also I would like to thank my team in ISR, Deon, Radit, and Pamela that have been involved in this study since the first day. Kudos to each of you. Thank you very much and have fun with this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fabi, for your opening remarks. Next, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Nathan Hultman, Director, Center for Global Sustainability, University of Maryland, to deliver opening remarks. Professor Nathan Hultman, the platform is yours.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And I want to also echo the thanks, of course, to Bloomberg Philanthropies for making this work possible. But very importantly, want to also extend our deep gratitude to Pak Fabi and the crew at IESR, who have been already just fantastic collaborators in this really interesting and important work that we're all very excited to share with you all today. And I see there's a number of people on the Zoom call, and I'm sure many in the room, and we express our thanks for your interest in this important work and hope we can elucidate or elaborate a little bit more on some of the results that you've already heard in the initial comments. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. So I'm very excited about that and to be working with IESR and to be connecting with all of you at this important event. So we are at a very, I think, we all know a very critical time for climate. We also know, I think that it's a very, frankly, exciting time in the world of understanding the possibilities that we have to move to a cleaner and a cleaner energy economy and an economy that works for people around the world in new and better ways. And I think that what we are focusing on today is a result of that exciting moment. What we're going to be sharing with you more, and what I think you heard just an initial set of ideas from Pak Fabi, is the idea that as we look to the future, and this is something that happens in both the United States where we're based, and also in many other places around the world, and including through this research as we're showing in Indonesia, each country is different, but in each country there's very immediate opportunities to move quickly away from certain kinds of dirtier energy that produce the energy we need for our economies, and to move toward currently very low cost and feasible technologies that can allow us to quickly and in a structured way replace those dirtier energy technologies with cleaner ones. And as we see in our country here and in many countries around the world, as we begin to do that process, we find often that it actually accelerates, that we can do more as we're replacing the technologies that will drive down emissions for climate change, but it also will deliver a number of other kinds of benefits that we weren't necessarily expecting before, but benefits like in health, benefits like in jobs, benefits in economic growth, and benefits in diversification. So this is the kinds of analysis that this study is presenting that we're discussing today, demonstrating the way that a structured transition, as we've laid out here, can not only get on a climate-friendly pathway in different country contexts, including the context of Indonesia, but also, as it's doing so, serve these other development and economic priorities, and do so in a way that's healthy and clean, and actually is on a pathway to new kinds of growth. And so that's the core of what we're focusing on in this report. We've applied, and you'll hear more about it, we've applied some analysis that's systematic across the different kinds of development, the different kinds of energy generation technologies that exist, to try to better understand how one kind of technology, the dirtier kind, can be rapidly replaced with cleaner ones. So as I noted, this is something that I think affects all of our countries around the world, and is something that we're very excited to be able to partner with IESR and better understand what can be done quickly and rapidly in Indonesia, even as we're also working on a similar set of questions in the United States to get our economy rapidly shifting away from coal and into new kinds of energy as well. And with that, I would like to just again wrap up by saying thank you to all of you who've joined, and looking forward to hearing more conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Nathan Hulman, for your opening remarks. Sesi selanjutnya akan dimoderatori oleh Bapak Deon Arinaldo, Program Manager Energy Transformation ISR. Kepada Bapak Deon Arinaldo, kami persilahkan.
Baik, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings from Jakarta. My name is Deon Renaldo, Program Manager in ISR, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. I will just move forward with the main event today. To open the event today, I would directly welcome Ms. Raina Yunchui, Assistant Research Professor for Center for Global Sustainability, University of Maryland, which will present us with her presentation on the brief of the content of the report. Ms. Raina Yunchui, you have 25 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone in the room, and also everyone joining on Zoom from Indonesia. Good evening, everyone joining from the US and probably other places around the world. I'm really glad to have the opportunity present on behalf of the team about this new report we're launching today. So let me share my screen so we can see my slide deck. Hope it is showing up correctly for people. Great. Before I start, I really want to acknowledge all the great work from all the co-authors that's listed on the first page. It is really a collaborative work between the AESR team and CGS team, and also people even beyond these two groups. It's really been a very productive and fruitful process that we benefit a lot from learning from each other and also enjoying working together on this important topic. So with that, I will start my presentation. So coal-fired power plants currently contribute to about 2/3 of Indonesia's power generation and over a quarter of the country's total carbon dioxide emissions. By signing the Coal to Clean Power Transition Statement at COP26, Indonesia agreed to consider an acceleration of coal phase out into the 2040s, conditional on receiving additional international financial and technical assistance. However, the plan proposed by PLN, the public power company at Indonesia, includes a 2056 phase out of coal-fired power plants and no new coal beyond 2023, although allowing some of the project already under construction or reach their financial close to be completed. To be able to accelerate from the announced proposal to a timeline, both in terms of no new coal and coal retirement, to be compatible with global 1.5 degree goal, additional support is needed because coal phase out have broader social economic impacts, including, for example, stranded assets, job losses, and additional investment needed to scale up renewable to both replace coal and also meeting the growing electricity demand. There are different financing mechanisms are already under discussion, including the Just Energy Transition Partnership for South Africa that also was launched at COP26, and the Energy Transition Mechanism initiated by Asian Development Bank in partnership with Indonesia and the Philippines. However, there's still a lot of research need or discussion to better understand how we evaluate the just transition financing need and also how to effectively allocate the limited resource we have to be able to achieve the best outcome in the near term, at the same time also set up a robust pathway towards the long-term goals. So in this analysis we are launching today, we developed a feasible plan and also the associated financing needs for retiring Indonesia coal-fired power plants in support of the country's net zero emission target by 2050, also in line with the global 1.5 degree goal. We're doing we conduct this analysis in 3 steps. We start with the pathway for national net zero emission by 2050 using a global integrated assessment model, the Global Change Analysis Model, GCAM, that has been used a lot in IPCC assessment and also for country, especially the US long-term strategy NDC development. The second step, we develop a detailed plant-by-plant retirement schedule based on both achieving multiple national priorities, including the air quality benefits, public health, and economic benefits at the same time. Also achieve the climate goal of 2050 net zero target. In the third step, we estimate the magnitude of the financing need by systematically quantifying both the benefit and cost of implementing this proposed retirement plan implemented in a just and rapid way for coal to clean energy transition. To start quickly with an overview of Indonesia's coal fleet. On this bar chart, we're showing existing capacity, including 86 operating coal plants, a total of 40 gigawatt capacity, ranking 7th globally. The bars are color-coded by the ownership of the plants. So 26 of the plants are owned by PLN, 32 plants are owned by IPP. There's a remaining 23% of the capacity are not connected to the grid, are as captive plants. So Indonesia coal fleet is relatively new. The majority are implemented in the past decade. About 3/4 were built after 2005. At the same time, there are also new projects under development, including 19 projects already under construction. Those are very likely to be implemented. And 3 projects that have signed the power purchase agreement also will face challenges to be stopped at this moment. Also, there's 11 projects at early development stages. Those are more likely to be canceled. So in our analysis, we focus on the existing and the under construction under PPA projects owned by the PLN and IPP. That's a total of 72 plants, 43.4 gigawatt. So among these plants, we see IPP owned almost 28 gigawatt, PLN owns a little bit less than 16 gigawatt. In terms of the age of structure of the plants, we see IPP owns the majority of the most youngest coal plants that are built in the past decade. While PLN plants are relatively older, especially for those already operate more than 30 years, that are all PLN plants. In terms of the plant size, many of the more recently built larger plants are also owned by IPP. Majority are at the 600 megawatt level. Also related to the combustion technology, the most efficient supercritical, ultra supercritical technology are also related with the newer plants owned by the IPP. Also in terms of the new project under development, majority are actually developed by the IPP. A small share are owned by the PLN. Also, the 3 project already signed PPA contract are also the IPP plants. Moving into our methodology, we combined both the bottom-up plant assessment and the top-down long-term coal power pathways from the Global Integrated Assessment Model, GCAM. So we started with the list of operating and under construction PPA plants, as I described in the previous slide. With that, we developed a scoring system to rank individual plants in terms of their retirement priority. On the right side, we have the global change analysis model that cover 32 energy economic region, where Indonesia is a single region within GCAM. We are able to, from the 1.5 consistent pathway, pull out the coal power generation and energy transition pathway for Indonesia. And combining both the bottom-up plant level analysis and the top-down national generation pathway, we are able to develop the retirement schedule for individual coal-fired power plants. Start with the electricity generation pathway from GCAM, we can see the stack bar on the left shows the Indonesia electricity generation under the global 1.5 and 2050 net zero emission scenario. And we can see at the bottom, coal without carbon capture and storage is the dark black. That goes down and becomes zero after 2040. And the coal generation is replaced by a large amount of renewable, dominantly by solar. Translating this electricity generation pathway, we see the corresponding carbon dioxide emission from coal power generation in this right chart showing in the blue line, which is from the same coal power generation pathway on the left, indicated as the black bar. Comparing this 1.5 compatible coal power emission pathway with trajectories based on the bottom-up analysis, we see the area showing emission trajectory from coal power generation based on existing plants indicated by the black area, plant under construction, the dark red, and then by slightly lighter color into the early stage plant. All of these bottom-up emission trajectory are estimated based on a 30-year lifetime, and also assume the plants will operate at today's utilization level, which you can see the line chart still, the line compatible with 1.5 still going down faster than what we are assuming from the bottom-up analysis, which indicates to be able to achieve the 1.5 compatible trajectory, the plants need to be retired before the design 30-year lifetime. And with the continued coal builds, especially if we go beyond the construction category, this will further shorten the lifetime of all the coal power plants. On this map, we are showing all the individual coal plants that are in operation in the dark gray, and for the purple dots in under construction and PPA. We're showing their location on this map. To rank the individual plants about their retirement priority, we apply a 5-dimensional analytical framework. From this framework, we are able to assign a score for each of the plants based on the multiple metrics. For example, the technical attributes of the plants include their age, the plant size, the efficiency, and the economic performance of the plants are measured by their annual gross profit. And the environmental impacts of the plants are measured by the CO2 emission intensity, their local air pollution and health impact, as well as water impacts. So we are giving score to individual plants based on multiple metrics that go beyond the climate goal, but also balancing a lot of the different domestic development priorities. Some more detail how we develop the score for the individual plants. Just to start with the individual metric, giving a score between 0 and 1, and we aggregate into the 3-dimension level, including the technical, the profitability, and environmental impacts of the plants. And the 3-dimension are then also combined and normalized into the final score of the combined metric. All of these metrics showing a score between 0 and 1, where the lower score close to 0 indicate a early retirement schedule of the plants due to their worse performance in terms of their technical attributes, economic and environmental performance. A higher score close to a 1 indicate the plants will be the last to retire. So in general, we are also coloring the bars into the different technical technology group. So in general, the larger and more efficient plants tend to retire later. With all of the systematic evaluation of individual plants, we are also able to identify a small set of low-hanging fruit plants for rapid shutdown to be able to help achieve the other goals we identified, including air quality, water, and economic performance. So the plants we identified there are total 12 of them, 4.5 gigawatt. They are shown on this map and also in this table. For all of these plants, they have a retirement schedule within next year, 2022 and 2023, because they perform kind of a below the average for all of the 3 dimensions. So no matter what is the policy priority, all of the plants will be selected for faster retirement. Some of the plants we are showing example are retired faster due to their aging condition because they're approaching the end of their economic lifetime. Some other plants have caused air quality, air pollution, and public health issue because they are also located close to residential area. And combining the 2 information we showed earlier, including the national pathway from GCAM and the individual plant ranking, we are then able to develop the retirement schedule for individual plants, which you can see on this map. We are starting from the list operating today. And then with retirement, we're seeing kind of where plants will be closed by 2030 and even more closed by 2040. There are still plants operating in 2040. To do that, we start with the national generation constraint from GCAM, and then we retire the coal plants one by one from the lowest score to the highest score. We explained closer to 0 means the plants have a worse performance. So all of the plants are starting from today's utilization level in our analysis. In the second step, we apply a minimum guaranteed lifetime, which is 20 years. To avoid really kind of a high impact on stranded assets for majority of the plants. So if in our step 1, any of the plants retire before the minimum lifetime, we give we adjust kind of where when the plants will retire. There is one exception. We didn't give the minimum lifetime to the low-hanging fruit plants because they do have worse performance and can achieve multiple societal goals when we retire them faster. So in this table, we have the detailed retirement schedule separated by PLM plants and IPP plants during the different decades in the 2030s, 2040s, and I forgot to mention in the national pathway from GCAM, coal power generation is completely phased out by 2045. So the retirement will be completed by then. And because we're assigning this minimum lifetime, we are now need to lower the utilization for plants because the total national constraint is still holds the same. We can see even though there are still over 12 gigawatt plants, 15 of them operating after 2040, the utilization level is really low, about 1,000 hours after 2040. That is significantly down from what's the level today, almost 6,000 hours. We are also looking at the retirement pathway across different power systems. And we can see the retirement speed is relatively similar if we include both the red part, the projects under construction today, and also the projects in operating. Specifically, the Java Bali system have the majority of the project under construction, which will expect to see a growth in the total capacity. But at the same time, we see faster retirement of existing plants due to their older age. So together, we see kind of the retirement speed is relatively similar across different systems. There's also a note, both of the Java Bali and Sumatra system are expected to face overcapacity issue if the expansion plan under the current PLN electricity supply business plan is followed, which include not only the project under construction, but also project under development. So the canceling project, not started construction, and also the retire of the older plants in the Java Bali system can help address the overcapacity issue as well. Coming to the third step in our analysis, which is the understanding of the financing need to implement the proposed retirement pathway in a just transition. So we first developed this framework, and which allow us to do the assessment or the quantification of all the benefits and costs in a systematic way. So in our framework, we include benefits colored in blue, and also the cost colored in green for the accelerated co-retirement under 3 dimensions, including the economic dimension, the social dimension, and the environmental dimension. We are also adding a little kind of info here to indicate which stakeholder is shouldering the costs and benefits. Either is the correlated industry or the government or the general public. So it is interesting to see a lot of the blue, which are the benefits, are actually will be shared by the general public, which have this diffused nature of the long-term benefits from co-retirement, where a lot of the costs are will be shouldered more concentratedly by the correlated industry and the community, and will induce some immediate costs that need additional support. In our in this analysis, with the data available, we are not able to quantify all of the metrics, which we focus on the one that I highlighted in the box. We also believe our quantification of these highlighted metrics covers the majority of the cost. And of course, continued improvement in data and methodology will help us work on this comprehensive analysis assessment continuously. Just jump into the results on the financing need. So the bar chart on the right top showing the cost of the retirement pathway as the negative portion, and also the 2 benefits in terms of avoided health costs, avoided coal subsidy on the positive side. So it is very clear that the quantified benefits in our analysis is much larger than the quantified cost in our analysis in each of these decades. So overall, we estimate the retirement cost at 4.6 billion through US dollar through 2030 and 27.5 billion US dollar through 2050. On the benefit side, the saving from avoided coal power subsidy and avoided public health cost are total almost 25 billion and over 61 billion respectively for the first half of the century, which clearly is much higher and actually 2 to 4 times as large as the quantified cost in each of the decades. So really the long-term benefits is clear. And also I also mentioned kind of a lot of the benefits are diffused to the general public, but the large upfront cost of the retirement will really need a lot of international support. Even we have the long-term benefits in the long run. Great, thank you. So just zoom into the retirement cost portion. We are able to quantify the retirement costs and benefits for individual plants. So here we are showing in terms of how much cost is associated with IPP plants, how much. So we are able to present here how much cost is associated with IPP plants indicated by the orange portion, the inner circle, and how much is the yellow associated with PLN plants. And also on the outer circle, we're showing the different categories that we are quantifying. And you can see the dominated, the light blue or grayish are the stranded assets portion. And also overall, about 2/3 of the total cost are associated with IPP plants. Yeah, just continue we are showing the breakdown by PLN versus IPP plants in the inner circle and also by the different category in the outer circle. And the dominant category is the stranded assets indicated in the light grayish color. Also, we look at the cost for implementing the 3 project already signed PPA and also the future retirement costs that will be induced by implementing them. Those costs are respectively 1.4 billion on the investment side for implementing those projects, but also later they will lead to 1.2 billion in terms of the retirement cost. Together, the 2.6 billion, if not proceed on the 3 projects, can be otherwise invested directly in low carbon renewable energy instead. And similarly on the projects, 19 projects already under construction, we estimated the same investment costs and retirement cost are also more than 16 billion US dollar if those projects are canceled. Of course, some of the project investment already being paid because they are under construction, but overall we are just trying to illustrate that those costs can be otherwise spent in the renewable energy alternatively. Also thinking about looking at the emission reduction that can be carbon dioxide emission can be reduced by this accelerated retirement by comparing to a scenario where all of these plants are operating for the designed 30-year at today's current 6,000 hour level. Versus this accelerated retirement compatible with 1.5, we can see the cumulative emission reduction is over 340 megaton carbon dioxide through 2030, and almost 2,300 megatons CO2 through 2050. And translating the cost into the CO2 emission can be reduced, we see is actually very reasonable level, about $12 to $13 per ton of CO2 removed, just for the part where we quantify the cost of the retirement. Next slide, please. I just also want to explain a little bit how we quantify the stranded assets, because that's the largest portion in our cost category. Our method actually focus on the remaining value of the initial investment of the project, assuming the 30-year lifetime and also a linear depreciation. So for majority of the plants, they already operate for the minimum of 20 years in our scenario. Not a large portion of the initial investment will be stranded in our calculation already. So comparing what will be stranded in the red bar and also what's today's value in the blue bar, about less than 40% actually of the assets value will be stranded. However, there's other methodology thinking about the stranded assets question, including the financial flow, because project will have expectation about how much profit they will receive during the investment decision making. Some of the project maybe the stranded assets are overestimated, some are underestimated. But of course, the more financial flow type of methodology will require more data and also more sophisticated data collection and methodology to be able to understand all of the expected financial flow related stranded assets calculation. And the next slide, please. Although not included in our total cost estimation, we are look at the investment need to replace coal and also for meeting the increasing electricity demand. We see the over 1.2 trillion US dollars needed for the entire 2022 to 2050 period, which is dominated by the renewable energy, the storage technology, transmission, and also energy efficiency. Looking at the need, 135 billion through 2030, in comparison, in the recent 5 years, Indonesia total energy investment has passed 35 billion compared to the 135 in the 8 years, which definitely need additional effort, but also it's not completely out of reasonable. However, the recent investment have a very small portion focused on renewable energy, which highlights the effort is actually needed to rapidly shift the fossil investment into the renewable and the other related area. Also, most of the investment should come from the private sector, while the public sector is very critical in creating attractive investment environment through regulation, policy support, and also different market-based mechanism. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think I just want to summarize all of the key findings from our report. The pathway in line with a 2050 net zero emission and global 1.5 for Indonesia, coal power generation will decrease by 11% in 2030, by over 90% in 2040, and then completely phase out by 2045. The identified low-hanging fruit plants, a small set, 4.5 gigawatt, plants that are older, dirtier, and more inefficient, a faster retirement of these plants can help achieve air quality, public health, water security issue that are beyond the global climate change. And also according to our detailed schedule presented, I won't repeat all of the results. You can look at the table I showed in the slide in our report, kind of the detailed retirement capacity for different category. And then we are also seeing the quantified cost can be covered completely by the quantified benefits in terms of like 2 to 4 times larger to the cost. The retirement costs are estimated to be 4.6 billion through 2030 and almost 28 billion through 2050. There's a large portion associated with IPP plants. And because of the large upfront cost for the retirement will require international support, although a lot of the benefits we can gain in the long run and also related to the general public. We're also seeing this saving related to canceling early development stage project that can be directly invested in low carbon renewable, which is definitely a need for Indonesia to be able to replace coal and meeting increasing demand. The total investment need is estimated at 1.2 trillion through 2050, and translate the cost to the carbon dioxide emission reduction perspective. We see the cost level is very reasonable on the lower end, $12 to $13 per ton of CO2 reduced. Next slide, please. Some of the policy recommendations, because of the coal phase out timeline developed here will take more than 25 years, but the action needs to start it now, and really need a strong and cohesive policy will, political will, and policies, regulatory framework to start the phase out of coal-fired power plants in Indonesia. Both the energy law and the energy plan by the government that are currently under review and also being updated could be used to strengthen this policy framework that can support coal phase out. The retirement plan needs to be considered in the next electricity supply business plan of the PLN and other utility. And also because of the multi-dimension and multi-facet of the challenges of retiring coal plant, there really is needed a national commission or task force that across multiple government agency that can be able to address this multi-dimension challenge to help this just energy transition. There's also particularly the social impact of coal phase out on local community needs to be highlighted. Protection and financial policy needs to be integrated into the package, along with the retirement schedule. And this can fit into the process, the ongoing discussion about the national energy transition platform and mechanism in Indonesia. And scaling up the renewable energy and the storage also needs to be integrated with a retirement plan. We see the larger amount of renewable needed to replace coal and meeting increasing demand. A lot of the other infrastructure on the system also needs to be prepared to be able to integrate all the renewable into the grid. And lastly, the international support in form of grant, concessional loan, and carbon finance are needed. There is a next step research or a lot of ongoing research by our community thinking about the needed or appropriate financing mechanism to be able to implementing the retirement schedule. And I think next is my last slide. I think also, next slide, please. Hopefully we can hear from the broader community about what's needed as the next step. to be able to further help understanding the retirement pathway and also develop feasible solution, including data and metric quantification, especially data on individual plants operation, to allow us to do more targeted and granular analysis on the plant level. And I already mentioned the financing mechanism, the role of public and private finance, the role of national government and international stakeholder that can be further elaborated in the future research. I mentioned kind of the project that are under early development stage and also assigned PPA. What are the available mechanism or possible solution for canceling those that have not started construction? And again, I think a lot of the investment need and the financing need, we can further look into the subnational granularity to be able to understand the different power systems within Indonesia. I think with that, that's the end of my presentation. Yeah, next slide, I just a thank you note for everyone and look forward to the Q&A and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Raina, for the very comprehensive presentation. And I see that there are a lot of insights we could actually draw upon that presentation. Before moving on to the panel discussion, I actually have like a brief questions actually to you. It's interesting that the report focused on building a pathway that is really compatible with the 1.5-degree pathway, right? And doing so, you kind of like limit the coal generation. And then there's a point that in the presentation that you said before that there is actually a correlation between building more power plant with the existing budget for the carbon emission, of course. And this also affect maybe the existing power plant condition. So maybe you could kind of like give more elaboration on that point, whether if Indonesia continue to build more in the pipeline, what would happen to the rest of the coal-fired power plants? Yeah. Raina, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dion, for that question. I think there's definitely multiple kind of challenges maybe increased because of the continued expansion. I think one I mentioned lightly in my presentation about the overcapacity issue, that because of the overestimate about electricity demand, the expansion plan, including a lot of the project under development, will introduce some potential overcapacity risks to the system, which will create a lot of actually economic impact to all the coal plants. And I think at the same time, when we are seeing rapidly decreasing renewable cost and also the potential also strong opportunity that Indonesia government is considering in moving towards the net zero pathway, the coal phase out is a direction that the country is heading. So adding more capacity will definitely make the long-term transition more challenging. Not only introducing more jobs into the industry, introducing more investment into the industry that may be stranded later. So I think that there's both in terms of the existing trend of the overcapacity, but also the long-term vision of the country moving towards 1.5 with expanded capacity on coal. Continued expansion will create challenges to both of the aspects. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, Raina. Yeah, so in short, we can safely say that actually building more would create more costs, right? To simply said, simply briefly wrap up your answer before. Okay, thank you. And now we'll be moving forward with the panel discussions. And for this session, I will be using both English and Indonesia. I'll be switching back and forth between those two languages to address all of the panelists. And then mungkin langsung saja saya akan mengundang panelis yang sudah hadir. Sangat disayangkan memang, tapi tentu saja kita juga berterima kasih para panelis sudah bisa bersedia hadir walaupun melalui online Zoom tentunya. Yang pertama saya akan mengundang Ibu Andrea Febi Misna ya sebagai Direktur Aneka Energi Baru dan Energi Terbarukan. Selamat siang Bu Febi.
Selamat siang Mas Dion.
Ya. Dan yang kedua adalah saya akan mengundang Bu Cynthia Rusli, Direktur dari Finance and Risk Management dari PT PLN. Selamat siang Bu Cynthia.
Selamat siang, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh semuanya.
Ya, baik. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And Raina, we hope that you don't mind. You could stay with us for another hour probably, and I could do less probably. And considering that it's very late in the US right now. Okay.
No problem.
Yes. Alright, baik. Saya akan mulai dengan pertanyaan umum dulu mungkin kepada Bu Febi dan Bu Cynthia. Tadi ada beberapa key insights ya yang ingin saya mau highlight. Mungkin saya akan minta tanggapannya dulu, terutama untuk key insights tersebut. Yang saya catat adalah pertama, Indonesia bisa mencapai net zero emission yang sesuai dengan persetujuan Paris, dalam artian pathway 1,5 derajat ya dalam hal ini, dengan mempensiunkan sebagian besar PLTU-nya, bahkan di tahun 2040 ya. Tadi tercatat 90% dari generation PLTU sekarang itu sudah hilang gitu. Dan complete phase out 100% di 2045. Itu key insights yang pertama. Yang kedua, manfaatnya dalam melakukan menerapkan rencana ini adalah ada 2-4 kali lipat sebenarnya manfaatnya, dan sebagian besar memang perginya ke publik ya dalam bentuk tadi salah satunya adalah public health benefit ya. Yang ketiga, ada integrasi energi terbarukan dan pengembangan jaringan yang juga butuh didukung ke depannya. Yang mana ini tadi investasinya cukup besar, sampai 2050 mencapai 1,2 triliun, dan menuju 2030 juga ada sekitar 135 miliar dolar ya, atau hampir 15-20 miliar dolar yang dibutuhkan per tahunnya. Nah, 3 poin ini saya ingin minta tanggapan dari Bu Febi untuk temuan studinya ya, kira-kira dari Bu Febi seperti apa mengenai target NZI dan bagaimana pensiun dini PLTU bisa berperan untuk mencapai target tersebut, cost and benefit tadi, dan juga yang terakhir adalah kebutuhan investasi. Silakan Bu Febi.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Dion. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Pertama-tama saya mengucapkan terima kasih ini kepada IESR, kemudian juga kepada Maryland University, Ms. Raina, kemudian juga Bloomberg Philanthropy yang telah melakukan kajian terkait dengan retirement plan and financing need for accelerated and just power phase out in Indonesia. Baik, kajiannya cukup komprehensif, dan kalau kita melihat tadi juga cukup banyak PLTU yang dikaji, dan terkait dengan rencana untuk pensiun dini dari PLTU ini juga sudah menjadi concern dari pemerintah dalam rangka upaya kita menuju transisi energi menuju net zero emission di tahun 2060. Mengenai waktunya, kapan benar-benar kita harus phase out, nah ini memang kita perlu kajian lebih dalam mungkin, karena memang kalau kita melihat dari modeling yang saat ini kami lakukan, kita menuju net zero emission itu di tahun 2060, kemudian terakhir PLTU beroperasi itu di tahun yang milik PLN itu di tahun 2056, kemudian kita mendorong untuk yang di luar PLN atau yang IPP itu bisa di tahun 2050, Nah, ini percepatan yang dilakukan ke tahun 2045 tentunya kita harus melihat lebih dalam lagi terkait dengan kajian ini, dan harapan kami tentunya kajian yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman ISR ini juga perlu kita selaraskan dengan kajian yang saat ini juga dilakukan oleh teman-teman dari PLN. Kemudian terkait dengan manfaat yang diperoleh, kita sepakat bahwa manfaat yang akan kita peroleh itu cukup besar, meskipun memang kalau saat ini dalam hitung-hitungan kita mungkin untuk manfaat dari sisi peningkatan kesehatan masyarakat, kemudian perbaikan lingkungan itu mungkin tidak dihitung secara tidak dimonetisasi ya, tetapi ini sebenarnya kalau kita bisa menghitung dengan baik, tentunya manfaat ini akan jauh lebih besar daripada investasi yang kita keluarkan untuk kita melakukan transisi energi. Ini nanti mungkin ke depan yang juga kita perlu melakukan hitung-hitungan secara lebih detail terkait manfaat yang akan kita peroleh dengan upaya transisi energi. Nah, kemudian terkait dengan kebutuhan investasi untuk upaya early retirement ini, tentunya kita membutuhkan investasi yang cukup besar, dan diharapkan dana dari pemerintah itu, karena memang dana APBN kita sangat terbatas, jadi harapannya dana dari APBN itu bisa hanya menjadi sebagai katalis saja, kemudian kita dorong swasta dan juga kemudian menarik pendanaan dari luar, apakah itu nanti dalam bentuk blended finance yang diharapkan nanti bisa mensupport upaya dari transisi energi ini. Dan saat ini kami dari Kementerian SDM, kemudian Kementerian Keuangan, BUMN, dan juga Kemenkomarves juga sedang menyusun peta jalan untuk early retirement ini. Dan di dalam Perpres pun kita sudah Perpres percepatan EBT, kita juga sudah memasukkan terkait dengan energi transisi, termasuk juga dengan rencana untuk penyusunan roadmap dari percepatan upaya pensiun dini dari PLTU ini. Mungkin demikian Mas Dion, harapan kami tentunya kajian ini nanti bisa disinergikan dengan kajian-kajian yang ada, karena dari Kementerian SDM juga kita ada melakukan kajian untuk early retirement, kemudian juga dari teman-teman dari PLN juga ada melakukan kajian untuk yang early retirement ini, jadi nanti mungkin perlu kita selaraskan sehingga nanti hasilnya juga bisa jauh lebih baik, dan studi ini bisa memperkaya dan juga memperkuat studi-studi yang ada saat ini. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Feby. Sebelum saya ke Bu Cynthia, mungkin ada sedikit brief follow up ya, Bu Feby. Tadi menyebutkan bahwa sebenarnya sudah, ya kalau kita lihat dari komitmen pemerintah yang disampaikan oleh Menteri juga di COP26, bahwa ya Indonesia sebenarnya bisa ya, mungkin untuk mempensiunkannya di tahun 2040-an gitu, PLTU-nya. Yang mana ini sesuai dengan rekomendasi dari laporan ini juga. Dan tadi Ibu juga menyebutkan sudah ada rencana-rencana kajian ini. Nah, boleh diberi bocoran nggak Bu ya? Kira-kira skenario-nya memang seperti apa aja yang sudah teriset atau dipikirkan oleh pemerintah, baik juga PLN juga, mungkin nanti dari Bu Cynthia juga boleh menambahkan. Silakan Bu Feby.
Ya, baik, makasih Mas Dion. Ya, jadi seperti tadi yang saya sampaikan, kami dari Kementerian SDM, kemudian Kementerian BUMN, PLN, kemudian juga Kementerian Keuangan dan Kemenkomarves saat ini memang sedang menggodok untuk upaya early retirement ini. Kalau kita melihat dari modeling yang ada saat ini untuk transisi energi, memang di tahun 2056 itu kan dengan upaya kita sendiri, tetapi dengan adanya dukungan dari pihak internasional, karena kita tahu juga pendanaan yang dibutuhkan cukup besar untuk upaya early retirement ini, maka mungkin bisa kita geser. Kalau yang ada di modeling kita saat ini kan ini kita melakukan pengurangan dari PLTU itu secara natural. Dan nanti kalau misal ada support dari pendanaan dari luar, nah ini memungkinkan untuk bisa lebih cepat, untuk bisa kita melakukan early retirement dari pembangkit PLTU yang ada. Nah, terkait dengan kajian, Kementerian SDM juga sudah melakukan kajian. Ini kita melakukan simulasi di 28 PLTU, itu ada PLTU yang dimiliki oleh PLN maupun yang IPP. Kemudian dari teman-teman PLN nanti mungkin Bu Cynthia bisa menyampaikan lebih rinci terkait juga kajian yang saat ini dilakukan oleh teman-teman dari PLN, dan memang rencana kita nanti pada saat G20 Leader Summit di sini diharapkan kita juga bisa mengumumkan paling tidak satu pilot project dari PLTU yang akan dilakukan early retirement, paling tidak satu ya, harapannya mungkin bisa lebih dari satu, apakah itu nanti PLTU yang dimiliki oleh PLN ataupun yang dimiliki oleh IPP. Kemudian juga direncanakan kita akan mengumumkan moratorium dari 3 PLTU. Kemudian juga akan dilakukan launching dari roadmap transisi energi, di mana saat ini kami sedang menyiapkan roadmap untuk transisi energi ini yang nanti akan disiapkan dalam bentuk Capman, dan juga rencananya akan kita launching pada Leader Summit dari G20 nanti. Dan untuk yang early retirement sendiri, ini juga nanti kita akan coba melakukan simulasi, baik yang periodenya sebelum 2030 ataupun nanti setelah 2030. Ini baik yang dimiliki oleh PLTU yang dimiliki oleh PLN maupun PLTU yang dimiliki oleh IPP. Sementara mungkin demikian, Mas Dion.
Baik.
Upaya-upaya yang sedang kita lakukan.
Iya, terima kasih Bu Feby jawabannya. Saya sekarang akan ke Bu Cynthia. Mungkin ada 2 pertanyaan tadi, Bu Cynthia. Pertama mungkin tanggapannya terkait pensiun PLTU dan target NZE ya. Cost and benefit tadi yang sudah disampaikan seperti apa tanggapannya, dan juga yang terakhir adalah investasi energi terbarukan. Nah, ini kira-kira PLN melihatnya seperti apa. Lalu pertanyaan yang kedua adalah tadi kajian PLN sendiri sejauh ini untuk pensiun PLTU kalau paling ambisiusnya tahun berapa nih gitu. Seperti itu Bu Cynthia, silakan.
Baik, terima kasih. Jadi terima kasih juga untuk undangan. Kami dari PLN juga sangat mengapresiasi dari ISR ya untuk kajian yang dilakukan, dan tentu saja didukung oleh berbagai institusi yang kredibel ya untuk melakukan studi ini, dan dilakukan oleh University of Maryland. Saya kira secara umum ya, komentar dari studi ini barangkali izin kami menyampaikan. Ini sangat baik sekali from theoretical perspective ya, sudah cukup komprehensif, berbagai attributes dilihat, gitu, technical attributes, ada profitability, ada environmental impact, grid stability, dan equity gitu ya. Jadi ini sesuatu hal yang memang banyak pihak yang sedang membantu Indonesia juga untuk melakukan suatu filterisasi atas workability dari retirement dari coal fired power plants ini, dengan yang kita sebut dengan multi criteria analysis. Kita saat ini juga dibantu oleh ADP, mereka juga hire consultant yang membantu untuk membangun suatu justifikasi. Internally di PLN kami pun melakukan, kami juga ada hire consultant untuk melakukan review terhadap long list dari pembangkit ini dan short list-nya. Barangkali ada tambahan perspektif yang mungkin mesti perlu dipertajam lagi, karena dari kita bahkan sampai kepada bicara grid stability bukan hanya fuel mix dan renewable energy integration, tetapi kita bahkan sampai kepada secara spesifik misalnya sampai 2030 bagaimana load flow ya, power flow yang akan muncul dari konfigurasi atau rekonfigurasi dari power plant yang ada. Jadi apabila kita retire, apakah sistem mampu mendeliver atau mampu mempertahankan continuity of supply kepada demand yang berada pada titik-titik tertentu. Jadi bahkan sistem constraint-nya sudah kita running untuk kita melihat itu. Jadi tidak hanya high level dari sisi attributes makro, kemudian nanti ini dilihat dan ongkosnya berapa, dikaji berapa emisinya, itu sesuatu hal yang high level correct. Namun technical details-nya tetap harus kita run juga, sehingga kita lihat bahwa is it possible to retire next year, next 5 years or next 10 years, given the workability dari penggantinya. Jadi misalnya apakah tadi pembangkit penggantinya atau the availability dan capability dari sistem untuk menyalurkan daya itu kepada masyarakat ataupun pelanggan PLN di satu kawasan tertentu. Jadi hal tersebut itu tentu saja masih perlu dipertajam untuk kajiannya. Jadi memang ini sebagai suatu baseline approach untuk melihat bagaimana tadi high level numbers yang bisa dilakukan untuk melihat ini secara theoretical, saya kira is a good start ya. Dan kita peroleh, suppose ini sesuatu yang bisa kita execute, nanti kita lihat lagi ya, manageability atau workability dari eksekusi kajian-kajian ini, selain tadi kita bicara sistem constraint in the real, di dalam keseharian, dalam lapangan, dalam operasionalnya, kita juga lihat nanti bagaimana perspektif, terutama nanti pertanyaan yang kedua adalah financing ya, aspek yang kedua adalah financingnya. Kita lihat tadi hasilnya, tadi ya berapa angkanya tadi, $4,3 billion dalam 5 tahun terakhir sampai tahun 2030, kemudian 28,3 billion dan 1,2 triliun US dollars. It is not biaya yang kecil gitu ya. Dan kita mesti lihat juga the next aspeknya itu adalah fiscal capability. Seberapa jauh APBN Indonesia bisa mengabsorb biaya-biaya ini, who should bear this? Apakah filantropi bisa sampai ratusan juta, billion dollars, atau tadi even tadi ya kita bicara multilateral, international development financial institution (DFI) ataupun multilateral, bilateral, dan even commercial banks mampu melakukan ini. Dan tadi kalau kita bicara private sectors, apakah private sectors has an appetite untuk bicara ke sini? Jadi ada perspektif yang berikutnya yang mesti kita lihat, market readiness dan kesiapan serta tadi appetite-nya mereka untuk masuk. Kami sudah lakukan misalnya non-deal roadshow minggu lalu ke Korea dan ke Jepang. Ini sesuatu yang challenging kepada mereka. Misalnya bank tertentu saja mereka melihat apakah mereka bisa mengabsorb ini untuk merefinance ini, karena ini bicara ini akan menambah memindahkan portofolio coal mereka yang ada sekarang di PLN di Indonesia pindah ke tempat mereka, ke balance-nya mereka. Jadi ini akan seperti apa mekanik dari perlakuan atas karbon ini gitu ya. Karena mereka pun semuanya memiliki net zero emission, sehingga tadi transisi energinya ini ada di balance siapa begitu. Selain tadi kita bicara who should finance this, tentu saja PLN tidak bisa memfinance ini karena balance kita juga terbatas. Dan ini akan masuk kepada pemerintah. Tadi sudah dihitung ada societal cost, economic cost, dan kemanfaatan, sehingga tadi net benefit-nya itu, ongkosnya itu berapa secara fiskal, itu barangkali menjadi sesuatu yang penting juga. Sehingga kita lihat berapa sih sebenarnya pemerintah akan melakukan ini. Nah, yang lain lagi barangkali secara makro, kita bicara pathway 1.5 degree ya. Jadi pathway untuk 1,5 derajat Celcius ini secara global, kita bicara global. Dan notif di sini bahwa PLN itu nomor 9 dari 40 gigawatt itu termasuk IPP dan PLN, kapasitas PLTU-nya nomor 9 di dunia. Nah, kalau kita contribute itu, bagaimana dengan negara lain? Jadi share sama negara lain. Bagaimana dengan China yang 1 sampai 8, urutan 1 sampai 8 itu yang contributing kepada CO2 emission secara worldwide itu bagaimana mereka kontribut. Jadi barangkali kami, kalau saya dari PLN ingin melihat juga bagaimana roadmap dari yang lain, bagaimana mekanik yang lain, sehingga tadi apa yang dilakukan oleh Indonesia misalnya mengeluarkan biaya 1,2 triliun, karena tidak mungkin biaya itu gratis, pasti akan pinjaman. Pinjaman nanti masih lagi ke taxpayers money. Betul, ini ada suatu balancing antara societal, tadi kesehatan dan sebagainya, masa depan dan tadi climate change dan sebagainya terhadap ongkos yang affordability yang dimiliki oleh Republik Indonesia karena akan masuk kepada taxpayers money. Dan bagaimana kalau kita contribute 1,2 billion misalnya di Indonesia terhadap misalnya negara lain gitu. So somebody 1 to 8 ya, urusan ranking 1 sampai 8 keep contributing atau keep contributing polluting the global sky dengan CO2 emission, dan PLN tadi atau Indonesia specifically PLN tadi yang contribute tadi misalnya mungkin sekarang kita sekitar 250 juta ton per tahun, itu kita savings. Nanti kalau kita nggak lakukan BAU sampai tahun 2060 mungkin kita akan contributing menjadi 900 miliar juta ton, dan tadi effort semua ini kita lakukan early retirement akan menghemat sampai 340 juta ton. Terus dengan ongkos sekian yang lain seperti apa? Jadi ada satu perspektif yang barangkali juga perlu kita lihat konteks secara global, country contributions terhadap hal ini. Sehingga tadi ini adalah sebagai suatu global effort dan tidak hanya rakyat Indonesia semata yang menanggung ini. Nah, kalau dari sisi PLN, kami sendiri tentu saja mendorong atau mendukung pemerintah. Tadi pertanyaannya bagaimana PLN melakukan ini. Jadi kami pun sudah beberapa bulan atau hampir setahun ini sudah melakukan PR dan melakukan identifikasi, melihat book value-nya seperti apa, carbon emission-nya bagaimana, carbon avoidance-nya itu ongkosnya seperti apa, dan juga bahkan kami sudah membangun tadi berbagai skema, tadi Bu Feby sudah sampaikan, bahkan tadi kita masuk ke dalam country platform lah, seperti apa kita akan finance ini, early retirement, dan membangun renewable energy-nya. Nah, ini sedang direview, sedang dilakukan juga secara terintegrasi dengan berbagai entitas atau institusi di Indonesia, dan kita juga sudah melakukan uji pasar dan market testing, ya, market sounding. Dan interesting enough gitu, karena hasilnya memang ini semua orang juga learning, even Jepang gitu. Kalau Korea juga, bahkan perusahaan listrik Korea dengan adanya satu komoditi keras seperti ini, harga energi primer mereka bahkan KEPCO itu sekarang sudah dalam almost financial distress karena tadi mereka tidak bisa terpass through harga energi primernya itu diabsorb oleh balance sheet-nya mereka. Sehingga tadi ini menjadi sesuatu yang kita bicara, opsi-opsinya seperti itu. Jadi itu barangkali ya dari kami.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Cynthia. Saya mungkin ada beberapa takeaways ya dari dua Bu Feby dan Bu Cynthia tadi. Yang pertama tadi Bu Feby meng-highlight tentang manfaat ya dari benefit public benefit, yang mana itu merupakan manfaat yang besar dari analisis ini. How to utilize that, how to mengoptimalisasikan manfaat ini agar benar-benar memberikan mungkin lebih ya dari sekedar hitung-hitungan angka gitu, actual economic growth atau something like that. Dan dari Bu Cynthia tadi perspektifnya diperluas lagi bahwa sebenarnya analisis coal retirement ini juga harus mempertimbangkan technical tadi ya Bu Cynthia ya. Yang pertama saya highlight load stability, power grid dan sebagainya ini seperti apa, dan mungkin juga affordability itu juga bisa dilihat sebagai aspek just juga kan, berkeadilan juga, bagaimana dampaknya pada affordability di energi sendiri atau listrik sendiri di Indonesia. Ya, saya rasa ini perspektif yang menarik, dan juga tadi terakhir highlightnya juga adalah bagaimana kontribusi global juga ke sini. So, to respond to that, I would like to move to Raina. Raina, maybe you could give more description or explanation how do you think that Indonesia first could really optimize or utilize the benefit that's given from the coal phase out. I see that there is a couple of benefits aside from the public health, right? And to really kind of like support this coal retirement implementation in the long term. And then I think you also mentioned at the end of your presentation that there is some future research that needs to be done. And I think Bu Cynthia also provided one, which is to give a broader analysis, also including the stability and also from the just transition point of view, affordability of the energy system itself. I think, do you think that it's doable to do this analysis, and what kind of like support that maybe you could require, and then whether you are also ready to provide that analysis given that support? Yeah, those two questions for you, Raina, please.
Yep. Thank you, Dion, and also thank you, Cynthia and Andrea, for your great comment. I'm really excited to hear there's already interest in also exploring the possible implementation of the plan. But of course, all the different challenges and questions you laid out are exactly kind of the next step we need to figure out as a community. And I really also agreed on kind of looking at experience or plan across country and to learn from each other and to jointly think about the feasible plan and also implementation. That will be very important. So in terms of the questions, I think definitely the question on grid stability and how the physical perspective of the system, that's very important. And we are not able to include that perspective in this analysis, but agreed that will be definitely one of the important topic in the future research. And I think that may require a different set of modeling tool or different methodology to think about that question. I think there's multiple perspective actually to think about the grid stability or secure energy supply question. So including how to integrate the renewable into the grid, how to think about the cross-region balancing. Of course, they're challenge for Indonesia because of the geographic feature of the island. And also there is a possibility in terms of modernize the grid and also increase effort in terms of energy efficiency. So like we don't kind of have like a very kind of a sharp increase in demand. So we get prepared and also to lower find opportunities on the demand side. So I think all of that will need a lot of research or more robust evidence to support. But also, I also want to comment on saying, you know, going back to continuing investing in coal is the old way or the traditional way of thinking about meeting demand. And we are looking at a net zero transition. It's a completely different energy system, and it will totally require us think differently together creatively about the solution. And also, I think in terms of the question how we better utilize the kind of on the benefit side, I feel like it's really not being fully integrated into the decision making, because just the cost, who is bearing the cost, who is bearing the benefit are not kind of a matching in this case. So a lot of the cost for a very concentrated community, a very targeted industry that are very easy to or relatively easy to identify and to quantify, so we kind of know the cost part better. But on the benefit side, it's actually to the general public and also long term, and it has a broader set of people that can receive the benefits. So it's hard to sometimes it's hard to integrate all of that into the consideration. So I think that's being able to bring all of these into the consistent assessment. I think it's an important a way of thinking and an important contribution when we think about the need. Is not just the cost part, there are also benefit part. Also, I probably missed one of the question, but I also feel like with limited resources, the finance resources at hand, you know, either we can invest in renewable and fossil at the same time. It kind of require us to focus the limited resources in the near term that can set up a good path for the long term. Yeah, sorry if I missed any of the question, but
Yes.
yeah, let me know.
Yes, thank you, Raina. Yeah, I think we could agree that there should be a mechanism on how to channel this benefit. I think there are also some benefit that is received from the government from our analysis, right? So I think the government side, it could be like the one that's playing the role to balance and channel this benefit into the one that's actually bearing the cost. and that's maybe a whole another discussion to to discuss this, how to this to build this mechanism. Alright, baik. Sebenarnya saya waktunya cukup terbatas, tapi saya masih ada satu pertanyaan lagi sebelum saya masuk ke pertanyaan dari peserta ya. Ini mungkin kepada Bu Cynthia dan mungkin Bu Feby juga bisa. Kalau beberapa minggu lalu saya lihat ada pemberitaan bahwa PLN sudah membatalkan ini ya 1,4 gigawatt kalau saya tidak salah disebutkan PLTU yang masih dalam tahap development atau PPA kalau saya tidak salah. Nah dari analisis tadi presentasi Raina juga menyebutkan bahwa sebenarnya benefitnya cukup besar jika kita bisa membatalkan seluruh PLTU yang ada di pipeline gitu. Nah, mungkin bisa dijelaskan Bu Cynthia apakah ini adalah sesuatu yang PLN akan lakukan juga, tantangannya seperti apa, dan kira-kira kalau mau melakukan itu PLN butuh apa nih gitu, dari pemerintah atau dari mungkin lembaga lainnya gitu. Silakan Bu Cynthia.
Baik, betul. Jadi tadi seperti disampaikan kami di PLN dengan dan tanpa instruksi dari pemerintah sudah melakukan suatu optimasi secara menyeluruh, baik dari perspektif keuangan untuk mempertahankan financial sustainability PLN, juga untuk mempertahankan tadi environmental sustainability. Jadi kata kunci sustainability ini baik dari perspektif financial maupun environmental dan sosial. Oleh karenanya kami misalnya bagaimana menyikapi oversupply yang saat ini terjadi karena mismatch dari demand yang terjadi dengan perencanaan sebelumnya, itu sudah kami upayakan. Ada yang kita sebut dengan konsultasi bersama dengan para IPP, dan alhamdulillah hasilnya cukup baik sejauh ini. Banyak juga IPP yang bersedia memberikan kontribusi untuk menunda COD atau menurunkan parameter-parameter kontraknya guna meringankan PLN dari tekanan TOP. Nah ini sejauh ini sudah cukup banyak yang disetujui bersama dengan para mitra kita. Nah kami terkait dengan hal ini tentu saja tidak mengambil langkah legal battle, tapi bicara bagaimana ini sebagai suatu konsultasi bersama dan menyikapi situasi COVID yang ada. Nah, dan kami juga memahami bahwa ada suatu contractual arrangement yang harus kita honor di dalam kerjasama kita dengan para mitra, karena di belakang dari para mitra kita ini, project developers atau IPP ini ada investors dan ada lenders, yang mana lendersnya itu sendiri juga akan melibatkan bukan hanya tadi export credit agency tapi commercial banks yang dalam hal ini tentu saja akan mempengaruhi bagaimana investment climate di Indonesia kalau misalnya kita salah-salah mengambil langkah. Jadi kami sangat calculated dalam hal ini dan itu alhamdulillah sudah kita lakukan. Nah kemudian isu yang kedua terkait itu lebih kepada bagaimana kita membantu atau memitigasi risiko financial sustainability. Kemudian terkait dengan environmental sustainability, tahun 2021 kita sudah bulan Mei sudah menerbitkan tadi net zero carbon roadmap PLN. Jadi barangkali ini bahkan dari pemerintah juga sedang mendevelop, PLN sudah duluan melakukan analisa dan bagaimana kita melakukan retirement dan bagaimana kita membangun suatu roadmap yang juga langkah-langkah jangka pendek untuk misalnya melakukan co-firing gitu ya dengan biomass dan lain sebagainya, dan bagaimana kita menyiapkan secara teknologi ke depan untuk bisa kita adopsi untuk mengarah ke sana. Jadi ada hidrogen, amonia dan sebagainya, dan kita juga bekerja sama dengan misalnya dengan pihak Jepang untuk melakukan review teknikal terhadap roadmap kita ini. Jadi kami masuk ke dalam bagaimana sejauh mana PLN sebagai utility, sebagai operator untuk juga melihat bagaimana kita bisa melakukan retirement. Dan tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Bu Feby, kami juga sudah sampai kepada beberapa skema untuk melakukan tadi early retirement yang baik mulai dari misalnya dalam tanda petik barangkali mothballing ya, mothball beberapa pembangkit, jadi stop operations. Tentu saja dalam konteks bagaimana kita melihat ini manageable dari sisi operasi dan bagaimana ini bisa di phase out atau di accelerated depreciation, depreciation barangkali untuk early retirement, dan kita bicara dengan Kementerian Keuangan bagaimana ongkos fiskalnya dan bagaimana subsidi dari pemerintah bisa menopang hal ini. Termasuk juga potensi spin off dari IPP. Dan di luar itu IPP sendiri juga sedang melakukan proses dengan secara B2B, mereka mungkin misalnya dengan INA, dengan investor yang lain sedang berbicara juga, dan nanti akan kembali ke PLN bagaimana konsen terhadap atau persetujuan terhadap perubahan ownership dari PPA ini dapat dilakukan dalam konteks accelerated depreciation, accelerated early retirement dari PPA-nya diperpendek. Jadi kita melihat bahwa kembali PLN secara proaktif memahami dan melakukan hal ini, dan kita memainkan peran bahwa kita ada leadership-nya di dalam energy transition ini, dan tentu saja secara komprehensif, dan melihat juga tadi kembali bagaimana readiness dari pasar. Nah, tadi kembali yang kita lakukan, ada misalnya tadi pembatalan atau cancellation dari PPA sudah kita lakukan, dan ini dari sisi project developers-nya pasti mereka juga akan ada suatu kondisi di mana mereka juga ada early investment yang sudah dilakukan, dan juga tadi ada isu-isu dengan lenders mereka. Tetapi alhamdulillah ini dapat dilakukan secara amicable solutions dan determinated yang sudah disampaikan. Jadi alhamdulillah sudah dapat kita lakukan, dan kita terus melihat opportunity ini karena financing new power plant, coal power plant pun akan menjadi challenging di sisi project developers-nya. Namun bagi yang sudah jalan dan sudah konstruksi dan sebagainya, saya kira itu nanti kita lihat bagaimana early retirement-nya dari accelerated dari PPA-nya. Tentu saja kami melihat dalam koridor contractual arrangement, karena ini kita bicara rights obligation dan alokasi risiko yang sudah kita sepakati sebelumnya. Baik. Karena ini kan kembali menjadi sesuatu yang muncul di belakang hari sebagai suatu encouragement dari global dan dari pemerintah Indonesia. Dan tadi kembali affordability menjadi isu, kemudian dari workability dari sisi partner kita, dari sisi project developers yang di belakangnya ada equity investors-nya, dan juga ada lenders-nya di belakang hal itu. Sehingga ini bicara ekosistem. Ya, ini akan seperti apa menyikapi hal ini. Saya kira demikian dari kami.
Baik, Bu Cynthia. Jadi cukup spesifik ya mungkin analisis yang perlu dilakukan melihat coal pipeline ini statusnya ada yang sudah konstruksi, baru PPA dan sebagainya. Yang mana tadi mungkin yang konstruksi mungkin yang sejauh ini ditinjau adalah accelerated PPA tadi ya, Bu Cynthia ya. Dan mungkin untuk membatalkan ini mungkin butuh analisis lebih lanjut mungkin ya kalau misalnya memang ini mau dipursue. Baik, Bu Feby mungkin apakah ada strategi khusus mungkin ya yang sedang dicari tahu oleh mungkin Kementerian SDM mungkin ya yang sedang dilihat, ditinjau untuk tadi mungkin call yang di pipeline mungkin terutama dan juga existing mungkin yang punya PLN. Silakan Bu Feby.
Ya, baik, terima kasih Mas Dian. Kami dari sisi pemerintah tentunya mensupport apa yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman dari PLN ya, apalagi kalau ini memang inisiatif dari PLN sendiri untuk bisa membatalkan yang mungkin sekarang sudah di dalam pipeline, karena kalau kita melihat dari yang existing saja saat ini coal-fired power plant itu kan lebih dari 60% dari pembangkit-pembangkit yang ada, sehingga kalau misalnya memang ada upaya untuk selain early retirement ataupun kemudian membatalkan kanselasi yang saat ini akan masuk, tentunya ini juga bisa mempercepat juga capaian dari EBT, karena terus terang kalau kita melihat sekarang sebenarnya pembangkit EBT itu dari tahun ke tahun itu sebenarnya jumlahnya meningkat, tetapi kemudian karena PLTU yang masuk juga cukup besar, angka PLT EBT ini juga akhirnya persentasenya juga tertekan. Dan kemudian untuk yang existing dengan melakukan co-firing ini juga satu hal yang bagus saya rasa. Apakah itu nanti dengan biomasa, dengan hidrogen, amonia, ini kan semua dalam rangka kita melakukan upaya dekarbonisasi lah untuk mengurangi emisi yang memang dihasilkan oleh pembangkit-pembangkit yang fully dari karbon. Prinsipnya kita mensupport untuk yang upaya-upaya yang dilakukan ini.
Baik.
Terima kasih Mas Dio.
Terima kasih Bu Feby. Baik, saya mungkin akan coba extend waktu diskusinya beberapa menit lagi untuk mengadres beberapa pertanyaan yang sudah terkumpul ya dari peserta yang baik yang di Zoom maupun yang di ruangan. Mungkin langsung saja dan saya mungkin minta bisa jawabannya berupa brief gitu. karena mengingat waktu. Yang pertama mungkin ini saya lihat dari Bapak Longgena Ginting. Nah, ini untuk PLN, Bu Cynthia. Bagaimana rencana dengan PLTU yang masih di pipeline, belum konstruksi, apakah akan diteruskan dan nanti mubazir? Atau sejak sekarang akan diputuskan untuk dibatalkan atau dialihkan ke pembangkit listrik energi terbarukan? Saya rasa ini sebagian sudah terjawab tadi.
Dijawab tadi ya.
Ya,
Dijawab,
tapi mungkin yang ini, yang kuncinya adalah pengalihan dari investasi dari PLTU ke energi terbarukan ini mungkin yang sedikit baru dan belum kita discuss ya. Itu apakah feasible dan mungkin ini juga ke Bu Feby ya, mungkin bisa lihat how tuh, mungkin apakah mekanisme tertentu bisa disusun ya mungkin. Silakan mungkin singkat aja Bu Cynthia dan Bu Feby.
Kami melihatnya tidak mencampur adukan ya kedua hal ini. Satu, kita bicara bagaimana kita bisa melakukan upaya penghentian sesegera mungkin pembangkit-pembangkit atau PPA yang belum dikonstruksi. Jadi ini sudah kita lakukan dan ini terus berjalan. Yang kedua, bagaimana tadi pembangkit EBT bisa kita dorong pembangunannya untuk mengambil porsi yang lebih besar menggantikan porsi dari coal ya. Saat ini coal fire power plants itu sekitar 65% dari fuel mix kita, dan ke depan ini kita sudah rencanakan untuk terus diturunkan. Nah, di dalam RUPTL yang ada 2021-2030 itu kita memiliki sekitar 40 gigawatt itu ya rencana untuk EBT. Nah, ini yang barangkali nanti kita bisa lihat seperti apa masuknya dan bagaimana atau teknologi apa yang paling pas untuk Indonesia. Dan juga dengan tadi tentu saja cost dan affordability dari negara, karena pada akhirnya akan masuk ke dalam APBN gitu ya. Karena di PLN sendiri tentu saja ini akan masuk ke dalam subsidi atau kompensasi yang jumlahnya sekarang sekitar 30% dari pendapatan PLN. Jadi ini yang barangkali mesti kita hitung dan kita lihat secara seksama di tengah kondisi oversupply yang ada saat ini. Jadi kita sekarang melihat satu, kita handle dulu oversupply dan take or pay ini harus kita lihat dan kita solusikan. Kemudian nanti bagaimana additional dari EBT ini kita masuk. Jangan sampai nanti sudah oversupply ditambah dengan EBT, nambah-nambah ongkos. Sebagai contoh tahun 2020 saja itu oversupply-nya TOP-nya bisa sekitar hampir 20 triliun ya. Dan kita sudah dilakukan oleh PLN upaya-upaya untuk percepatan demand gitu ya. Demand creation untuk bisa menyerap kelebihan dari IPP yang ada. Jadi kita memang saat ini kebetulan juga sedang COVID kemarin dan demand-nya sekarang sedang merangkak tumbuh, dan ini yang sedang kita lakukan secara betul-betul secara intensif. Bagaimana demand creation ini untuk kita bisa lakukan ya intensifikasi dan ekstensifikasinya. Dan yang kedua adalah bagaimana EBT ini tetap bisa diakomodir untuk bisa masuk ke dalam sistem. Sehingga tadi kita tidak pada gilirannya tidak menambah beban keuangan negara atau menambah beban taxpayers money gitu, just for the sake of EBT begitu. Jadi kemampuan negara, kemampuan balance sheet PLN dan balance sheet negara ini yang mesti kita lihat dan kita perhitungkan. Tapi secara sadar kita tahu bahwa ini adalah rencana. Whenever itu ada, yang penting kita satu komitmen adalah kita tidak akan membangun PLTU baru gitu ya, yang tidak direncanakan di dalam sistem gitu. Jadi dan EBT itu tidak hanya begitu EBT begitu saja. Kita punya EBT misalnya 1000 megawatt itu nanti ada baterainya, bagaimana sistemnya, kemudian kontrolnya. Dan di sisi PLN bahkan kami sudah menyiapkan control center di Jawa Bali sekarang sedang kita refurbish untuk bisa menyerap variable renewable energy. Karena begitu dengan EBT banyak sekali intermittency. Jadi kami sebagai operator ini bukan hanya bicara demand supply ya, capacity balance saja dan bicara EBT dan 23% dan sebagainya, tetapi kita betul-betul melihat operasional di lapangan. Dan bagaimana, apakah sistem perlu menyiapkan infrastruktur untuk mengabsorb intermittency dan lain sebagainya. Dan bahkan kami infrastrukturnya sedang kita siapkan, Java Control Center sekarang sedang di-refurbish dan kita dibantu juga oleh NREL, oleh Global Power System Transformation Consortium, dibantu oleh berbagai independent system operator di berbagai negara untuk membangun tadi control center yang variable renewable energy friendly. Jadi itu barangkali kami leadership PLN di dalam transisi menuju net zero carbon ini, insya Allah sih kita komit dan kita sangat seksama melihatnya dengan berbagai perspektif tadi.
Baik, ya. Terima kasih Bu Cynthia. PLN komit ya Bu ya, pada dasarnya tapi butuh bantuan tidak hanya mungkin dari segi pendanaan tapi juga teknis tadi lagi-lagi mungkin butuh kejelasan ya mungkin agar nanti proses transisinya bisa smooth tentunya. Baik, moving ke pertanyaan yang kedua, and this second question, I think this is addressed to Raina. And I think I'll combine it with the following, also the next questions. So the first question is there any mechanism on how will the state coal revenue losses be restored? That's the first question. And the second one, what is the mechanism to channel international support to phase out coal power plant in Indonesia? I think for those two questions, Raina could answer, and then for the third one, maybe Bu Febi could give some additional remarks. Over to you, Raina.
Yeah, thank you, Dion. Yeah, so for the state coal revenue losses, we are quantifying in this report. It's actually for the broader context for Indonesia, because it is important element of the economy, and especially for a specific region. So the entire supply chain of the coal industry will face the challenge of the transition as well. So in our analysis, we quantified the revenue losses related to the coal power phase out in Indonesia. But I think broadly, as the world is moving towards 1.5, I think the coal supply industry will also definitely need support during the just transition. So specifically to the question, I think we are including it in our cost of coal phase out. It's to kind of a starting to include all of the element along the supply chain in our consideration about providing support, providing financial support, and of course this is as I mentioned, this is only part of the coal industry will face. There will be more challenges probably from the exporting and other parts of the demand also domestically. So I don't think we look into the specific mechanism to get the revenue losses, but just want to say what we are quantifying is a small portion of probably a larger challenge that needs to be looked at further as well. And apologize, Dion, could you repeat the second question?
So what is the mechanism to channel international support to phase out coal power plant in Indonesia? Maybe you have some examples from your experience overseeing other countries doing so.
Yeah, that's also another great question. I think the different financing mechanism are is actively under discussion and being experimented by the different financing mechanism proposed. I mentioned the South Africa example and also the Asian Development Bank example. We are I think this is also need experts from the financing community to also help provide a integrated solution. I think that's another kind of a important example of how multi-dimension this challenge is. Kind of we need different experts to join the conversation to provide the solution. And we are trying to start thinking about that. I know other teams are also doing the more financing mechanism oriented analysis, and we're also hoping to use our another webinar we're organizing next week to invite more of the finance community expert to discuss the specific mechanism that can be built on from our analysis. But I think we also mentioned kind of the carbon tax or the price for carbon kind of as what we estimated as the $12 to $13. I think that's some of the kind of the carbon market, the market-based mechanism can also be one possible option for thinking about using the revenue from carbon tax or carbon markets to support the energy transition.
All right, thank you, Raina. Yeah, definitely for the state called revenue loss, we have to have another roadmap probably, yeah, for these stakeholders, especially the local province probably where this coal is being mined to transition their economy as well. So I think that's also appropriate and should be also in one of the things that Indonesia should prepare for this coal transition, energy transition. Bu Feby, mungkin apakah ada tanggapan mungkin untuk mekanisme men-channel international support ini, seperti apa yang dijelaskan mungkin yang dari pemerintah Indonesia saat ini, rancangannya kayak apa mungkin yang setelah didiskusikan? Ya.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Dion. Jadi memang sekarang kita sedang menggodok untuk country platform to energy transition ya. Jadi sumber pendanaannya itu ya bisa dari bermacam sumber pendanaan, baik itu dana pemerintah, kemudian juga dana dari sektor swasta, filantropi maupun dari internasional, yang kemudian nanti bisa ditampung di dalam sustainable fund dalam bentuk green bond ataupun green aid dan dalam bentuk keren ya. Nah ini blended finance ini kemudian nanti yang akan kita bangun energy transition institutional framework, dan ini memang masih dalam proses pembahasan. Ini nanti akan kita manfaatkan dana tersebut untuk upaya energy transition mechanism ya, untuk upaya transisi energi khususnya untuk upaya pensiun dini dari PLTU yang ada. Sementara demikian, Pak Dion, yang sedang kita siapkan bekerja sama dengan Kementerian Keuangan, kemudian juga Kemenko Marves, untuk bisa kemudian sama-sama kita membangun satu institusi pendanaan lah untuk energy transition mechanism ini. Terima kasih. Suaranya nggak dengar ya.
Nanti.
Tes. Baik, terima kasih Bu Feby dan Bapak Ibu sekalian peserta yang bergabung melalui Zoom dan juga di ruangan. Saya mohon maaf untuk diskusi panel akan saya batasi sampai ini saja. Mohon maaf juga untuk beberapa pertanyaan yang mungkin tidak bisa teradres. Mungkin nanti akan kita coba follow up ya dengan peserta sekalian langsung. Selanjutnya saya juga ucapkan terima kasih kepada Bu Feby tentunya sudah bersedia untuk hadir bersama kami pagi dan menjelang siang ini. Bu Cynthia juga terima kasih atas tanggapan dan komentarnya Bu. And also of course to my colleague Raina, thank you for staying late with us until I think it's already past midnight there. I hope that you could bring enough insights for your future studies as well. Ya, selanjutnya saya akan langsung menuju acara akhir, yaitu closing remarks dan juga peluncuran dari laporan Financing Indonesia's Coal Phase Out, a Just and Accelerated Retirement Pathway to Net Zero, yang akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Fabi Tumiwa selaku Eksekutif Direktur dari IESR. Kepada Bapak Fabi Tumiwa kami silakan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our launching event today. I would like again to thank to all speakers and panelists, Raina, Bu Febi, Bu Cynthia, for providing comments and share your thought about this report. I do believe that this report could be very, very useful, as also mentioned by Bu Cynthia and Bu Febi, to help Indonesia government and PLN to prepare the energy transition plan for Indonesia and enrich the discussion about energy transition in this country. We all know that accelerating coal phase out, it's kind of good in terms of environment, but not only that, in terms of economy. And we appreciate a lot that PLN has taken one step forward, as also explained before, to cancel a number of plans that's already in plan. But also we know that due to the situation now regarding the financing situation, it is actually a rational choice for PLN to stop a number of plans that is not needed. The other part which is very, very important also from today's discussion is that what would be the replacement, and as Indonesia moving forward toward net zero emission, the importance of having renewable energy be ready to be deployed and construct, I think is very, 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 very important. So we have to aware that in other part we have to phase down the coal capacity, but at the same time we have to make sure that all the renewable power plant to replace this coal plant also should be available. So I think we will see in the near future more aggressive plan to deploy renewables, which currently in RUPTL, I think it still can be, could be enhanced. With that, then to close this, I'm proudly, on behalf of ISR and University of Maryland, I'm proudly launched the report of the financing Indonesia coal phase out, adjust and accelerated retirement pathways to net zero. Enjoy the report, and thank you for coming to our events today.
Baik, tak terasa kini kita telah memasuki penghujung acara Financing Indonesia's Coal Phase Out, Adjust and Accelerated Retirement Pathway to Net Zero Report Launching and Discussion. Kami tentunya mengucapkan terima kasih yang banyak atas perhatian dan serta partisipasi dari Anda sekalian semua. Kami juga mengucapkan terima kasih tentunya pada kolega kami di School of Public Policy di University of Maryland, serta juga dukungan dari Bloomberg Philanthropies untuk realisasi dari report ini sendiri. Selanjutnya juga akan ada diskusi lanjutan di minggu depan untuk membahas report yang sama dengan financial expert juga ya, yang akan di-host oleh University of Maryland. Jangan lupa juga untuk selalu mengikuti kanal media ISR untuk bisa mengetahui informasi lanjutan. Selanjutnya saya juga ingin mengumumkan bahwa dalam waktu dekat ini ISR akan menyelenggarakan Indonesia Sustainable Energy Week yang akan diselenggarakan pada tanggal 19 sampai 23 September bulan depan. Saya Deon Arinaldo pamit undur diri. Sehat selalu. Sampai jumpa pada kesempatan selanjutnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Salam kebajikan. Namo Buddhaya. Om Shanti 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 Om.